Power is never lost through conflict. It is lost through closure. The moment you grant someone the satisfaction of resolution, you hand them the weapon to walk away, to heal, and to forget. But what if keeping a wound open meant keeping control? Today, we dismantle the dangerous illusion of closure and reveal why denying it may be your most strategic move. In the theater of human interaction, few illusions are more seductive than closure. People crave it, not for truth, but for comfort, for a sense of finality that lets them escape the grip of emotion and thought. Yet the strategist knows, finality kills influence. A door left slightly ajar keeps the mind wandering. An unanswered question breeds obsession. A broken bond without explanation becomes a chain, pulling the other back toward you. In this discourse, we explore why closure is the enemy of control and how to wield its absence like a blade. Consider this. What lingers in your mind longer? A conversation that ended neatly or one that stopped mid-sentence, leaving you searching for what was never said? Completion breeds forgetfulness. Incompletion breeds obsession. This is not mere philosophy. It is a law of human nature, one as old as power itself. When the human mind faces an unresolved moment, it begins to circle. It replays events, imagines alternatives, and searches for hidden meanings that may not even exist. This is the trap of incompletion, and the one who sets it controls the thoughts of others long after they've left the room. Ask yourself, why do some betrayals, some words, some absences echo for years, while others fade like smoke? The difference lies in whether the mind was given a door to close, or forced to wander an endless hallway. History provides brutal lessons. Consider the downfall of kingdoms not through armies, but through lingering doubts. When Cesare Borgia executed his lieutenant Ramiro di Orco, he left the body displayed in a public square, cut in half. No explanation, no trial, no words of closure for the people, only silence and the image of punishment. The result, fear, speculation, endless whispers of why it happened, who might be next, and what unseen hand moved behind the scenes. The absence of explanation was not weakness, it was strategy. The people, desperate for answers, chained themselves to his narrative. Their minds became his weapon. Now consider the personal level, the battlefield of relationships, loyalties, and influence. When you grant closure, you allow someone to detach. They process, they accept, they move on. But when you withhold it, you plant a question so deep, they may never stop digging. Have you ever noticed how a lover who suddenly leaves without explanation haunts the memory more than one who writes a long letter of goodbye? One leaves scars, the other leaves chains. The scar heals. The chain rattles at night. Psychologists call this the Zeigarnik effect, the mind's tendency to fixate on incomplete tasks more than completed ones. A conversation left unfinished, an apology never received, a betrayal never explained. These open loops demand mental energy, pulling the mind back again and again to what it cannot resolve. And where does it return? To you, the source of the unanswered question. Cold as it sounds, incompletion is a form of ownership. You live in their thoughts. They revisit your words, your silences, your last look, searching for hidden meaning. They try to write the ending you refuse to give, but every time they do, the story changes. And with each version you remain at the center. But beware, this is a blade that cuts both ways. Used recklessly, it can breed hatred as easily as it breeds longing. Used well, it creates fascination, a sense of unfinished business that binds the other to you. Not through affection, but through unresolved tension. You may ask, is this manipulation? It is, but so is every act of influence, every speech, every gesture. Every pause before an answer. The wise know that control does not always come from force, nor from persuasion. Sometimes, it comes from leaving the table before the last card is played, letting the other sit in uncertainty, wondering what might have been. Consider the strategist who never reveals his full plan, the rival who never hears why you spared them, the ally who never knows whether they are trusted. These uncertainties are seeds. And seeds, once planted, grow in the dark. But here lies the cruelest truth. The longer the question lingers, the more powerful it becomes. The mind, desperate for closure, will turn a single vague word into a prophecy, a glance into a warning, a silence into a secret pact. Reality becomes irrelevant. The narrative they build will often serve you more than any truth you could have given. And so, I ask you, when someone seeks closure from you, do you give them peace? Or do you give them a question they cannot answer? Because the strategist knows peace frees, uncertainty enslaves, and this is only the beginning. For what is obsession, if not a leash hidden in the mind? Why do some people walk away, while others keep returning to the same memory, the same question, the same person, again and again? Because obsession is not born from satisfaction. It is born from hunger, a hunger you, the strategist, know how to feed without ever satisfying. When you deny closure, you do not simply leave someone unsettled. You create a vacuum, a space where certainty should be, and the human mind despises a vacuum. It will rush to fill it, not with truth, but with endless speculation. That speculation, like a fire, must be fed. And what fuels it best? Obsession. But let us be clear. Obsession is not merely emotional attachment. It is mental captivity. It is when your presence, your words, your silence, live rent-free inside another's thoughts. And once you are there, they cannot simply turn away. They must revisit you, consciously or not, because their mind cannot rest until it resolves what you left unresolved. History offers countless lessons. Consider the court intrigues of Florence. Princes often revealed part of a plan, part of an intention, part of a promise. Never all. Why? Because certainty breeds independence. Doubt breeds fixation. A rival who knows exactly what you will do can plan, but a rival who only knows fragments cannot stop thinking about you. Even Borgia, that master of quiet cruelty, understood this. When he released a prisoner instead of executing him, he gave no reason. The man spent years wondering, was it mercy? Was it mockery? Was it a test? In the end, the man became loyal, not out of gratitude, but out of terror of misinterpreting the meaning behind his release. Obsession forged obedience where fear alone might have failed. Psychologists today explain this through the lens of reinforcement. Inconsistent rewards, sometimes a smile, sometimes a silence, trap the mind more than predictable outcomes. The gambler cannot leave the table because the next hand might change everything. The lover cannot forget the one who was warm one day, cold the next, because each encounter promises a new clue. The victim cannot let go of the one who hurt them without reason, because understanding might justify their suffering. And so, they return. Ask yourself, who haunts the mind more? The person who said, goodbye, forever, or the one who disappeared without a word, leaving a single unfinished sentence echoing in memory? To cultivate obsession, you must learn the art of precision. Not too much information, not too little, a word here, a glance there, a silence that suggests meaning but denies certainty. Each one becomes a hook, and each hook tethers the other person's attention to you long after they have left your presence. But here is where cold strategy becomes necessary. Obsession can be dangerous. Push too far, and you breed resentment. Hold back too much, and interest fades. The balance lies in giving just enough to keep the question alive, never enough to answer it. Consider the ruler who hints at a secret alliance, but never reveals the terms. The courtier who offers a half confession, then changes the subject. The leader who praises an underling for reasons that seem obvious, yet not entirely. These acts are not random. They are designed to ensure one thing: you will be thought of tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. And in a world where attention is power, there is no greater weapon than a mind you do not have to chase, because it is already chasing you. But what is the endgame? Not control of a single moment, but control of the narrative. An obsessed mind begins to tell itself stories. It invents reasons, motives, promises you never made. It becomes your accomplice in its own captivity, shaping reality around the fragments you left behind. And so, I ask you, when you leave someone questioning, are you not already inside their mind? Do you not own a piece of them, simply by withholding what they seek most? But beware, for obsession has its own price. In the next segment, we will explore how mercy, the act of giving closure, can free them and destroy your hold entirely. Mercy is celebrated as a virtue. Closure is seen as kindness. But tell me, what happens to power when you offer either? It dissolves, like smoke in the wind. When you grant closure, you allow someone to leave your sphere of influence. You let them process their pain, reconcile their anger, and walk away clean. What they owe you, emotionally, psychologically, or strategically, dies the moment they find peace. And yet, peace is precisely what a master of control must deny. Understand this: people do not crave truth nearly as much as they crave release. They want to know why you hurt them, why you left, why you betrayed, why you acted with cold precision. They want this not for your sake, but for theirs, because closure is not about justice. It is about escape. Escape from the grip of uncertainty, obsession, and emotional debt. But should you allow them that escape? Should you grant mercy knowing it will free them from you forever? History teaches us otherwise. Consider the Medici of Florence. They understood that power was maintained not through generosity, but through carefully measured uncertainty. When they punished rivals, they left reasons ambiguous. When they forgave, they never explained why. Why? Because clarity frees the mind. Ambiguity keeps it tethered. Even in matters of loyalty, this principle holds. A prince who spares a traitor, but fails to reveal whether it was mercy or strategy, leaves the man eternally bound to gratitude and fear. But a prince who explains himself destroys both. The traitor, understanding his reprieve, will no longer wonder. And once wonder dies, so does influence. Now, step into the personal realm, where power is subtler, yet no less real. In relationships, romantic, political, or social, closure feels like a gift. It appears humane to offer explanations, to comfort, to apologize, to make the ending clean. But clean endings breed distance. The emotional thread frays and snaps. The other person, once deeply entangled, becomes free to forget you. And forgetting is the true enemy of influence. Ask yourself who remembers you longer: the one who received your reasons, or the one who never learned them? Psychology confirms what the strategist already knows. Once closure is granted, the emotional storm settles. The mind files the event away, categorizes it, and moves forward. But when closure is denied, the wound remains raw, the question unanswered. The memory, unhealed, returns like a ghost. And ghosts never leave quietly. But beware, withholding closure must be done with precision. Done poorly, it becomes cruelty and breeds rebellion. Done well, it appears neither accidental nor malicious. It simply is. A silence that feels heavy with meaning. A word that suggests mercy but hides calculation. An act that appears humane, yet leaves the other chained to interpretation. Consider the commander who pardons a soldier. If he says, "I forgive you because you are loyal," the soldier feels justified, relieved, free. But if the commander says nothing, or worse, smiles without explanation, the soldier lies awake at night. Why was I spared? Am I valued? Or am I being watched? His loyalty deepens, not out of love, but out of fear and fascination. Mercy without reason enslaves. Mercy with reason liberates. Which one serves you better? Yet there is a darker layer still. Closure not only frees the other, it weakens you. Once you explain yourself, you surrender mystery. Mystery is the silent aura of power. Strip it away, and you become ordinary, predictable, forgettable. And so, I ask you, when they come seeking answers, when they beg for clarity, when they demand a reason, will you play the merciful ruler, or the strategist who knows that mercy, when explained, becomes self-sabotage? What is more powerful than truth? Ambiguity. For truth ends the question. Ambiguity makes it eternal. When you leave things unsaid, you invite interpretation. And interpretation is never neutral. It bends toward desire, fear, or hope. It bends toward you. A strategist knows this well. Finality is dangerous. Once you say exactly what you mean, you allow others to calculate their next move with precision. But when you speak in shadows, when your words hunt, suggest, or contradict, your rivals, allies, and followers are forced to think for you. They imagine motives. They construct meanings. They build strategies around assumptions. And in doing so, they surrender control. History provides no shortage of lessons. Consider the court of Louis XI of France, known as the universal spider. For the webs of intrigue he spun, Louis would tell 3 ministers 3 different versions of his plan, none of them fully true. What followed was not dissent, but paralysis. Each man spent days speculating on what the king really intended, terrified to act lest they guess wrong. Ambiguity froze them in place more effectively than any chain. Even in the battlefield of personal relationships, ambiguity works the same way. A promise spoken in vague terms, one day perhaps, can enslave the mind more than a firm commitment. Why? Because a clear answer ends the dream, a vague one feeds it endlessly. The lover waits. The follower hopes. The rival hesitates, all for fear of misreading your intent. Psychology offers an explanation. The human mind is uncomfortable with uncertainty, yet addicted to meaning. When clarity is denied, it compensates by inventing explanations. These inventions often flatter you, paint you as more brilliant, more merciful, or more dangerous than reality. The ambiguity you leave becomes the canvas upon which others project their deepest fears and desires. But you must master this art carefully. Ambiguity must feel deliberate, not careless. A poorly chosen word or awkward silence invites doubt in your competence. But a calculated pause, a cryptic remark, a half smile in place of an answer, these invite fascination. They make others believe you know more than you say, see more than you reveal, plan further than they can comprehend. Have you noticed how leaders of history were often described as mysterious or unreadable? This was no accident. It was cultivated. A ruler who appears predictable loses his aura. But one who seems to carry secrets commands not just obedience, but reverence. Ask yourself, what would serve you better? Being known for what you are, or being feared for what you might be? In matters of negotiation, ambiguity is a shield. Promise too much and you become a hostage to your word. Offer too little and you seem weak, but a promise wrapped in mystery. There are forces at work beyond what you see. Can make even the boldest adversary hesitate, because what they cannot see, they must imagine. And what they imagine often terrifies them more than reality. Even the smallest gestures carry weight when shrouded in ambiguity. A nod can signal approval or warning. A pause before answering can suggest calculation or doubt. A single unfinished sentence can keep someone awake at night, wondering whether they were praised or threatened. And yet, ambiguity has its dangers. Used recklessly, it creates chaos. Used too sparingly, it loses its edge. The key is balance, giving just enough clarity to keep the game alive, and just enough mystery to ensure no one dares to play without you. But here lies the deeper truth. Ambiguity is not only a weapon, it is a throne. Those who dwell in certainty sit on unstable ground. Those who dwell in mystery command the unseen. So I ask you, when you speak, will you be precise and predictable? Or will you leave echoes instead of answers, knowing they will return to haunt those who heard them? What binds a man stronger than fear, stronger than loyalty, stronger than love? Emotional debt. A force invisible yet heavy. A weight that grows heavier the more it is denied resolution. When you refuse closure, you do not merely leave a question unanswered. You create a debt. Emotional, psychological, sometimes even moral. A debt that demands to be repaid, but never can be, because the terms are never clear. And in this confusion lies your power. Consider the merchant who borrows gold. As long as the debt stands, his life bends toward repayment. Every decision is shaped by the weight of what he owes. Now replace gold with emotion, a need for explanation, forgiveness, or meaning, and you will see how debt of the heart enslaves far more effectively than debt of coin. History proves this truth. The Borgias, masters of silent coercion, often spared their rivals in public, yet withheld any reason for their mercy. The spared man walked away alive, but indebted. Should he express gratitude? Should he fear hidden terms? Should he prove his loyalty? The ambiguity of his reprieve left him owing something he could not define. And because he could not define it, he could never repay it. Thus, his life became a tribute to those who spared him. The same principle applies on smaller, quieter stages, where power is exercised in whispers, not decrees. When a relationship ends without explanation, the one abandoned feels a strange obligation to understand why. They replay conversations, search for hidden meaning, and wonder whether they failed, or whether they were tested. They become restless debtors of emotion, chained to a question they cannot answer. And every time they think of you, the weight of that debt grows heavier. Why? Because debt creates motion. Those who owe must act. Those who owe must return. Those who owe cannot forget. Psychology names this the unfinished business effect. When something remains unresolved, the mind treats it as incomplete work that must be finished before it can rest. But what if the work can never be finished? What if the terms of repayment are hidden? Then the debtor, be it ally, rival, or former lover, remains yours, bound by the compulsion to seek relief. But here lies the strategic brilliance. The debt you create does not need to be cruel. It can be subtle, even gentle, a look of approval never explained, a kindness delivered without reason, a betrayal committed without confession. Each one writes an invisible contract, signed not with ink, but with doubt, and doubt keeps the debtor restless. Yet, there is danger in carelessness. Push too hard, and the debt becomes resentment, then rebellion. Pull too lightly, and the weight fades, breaking the chain. The skilled strategist keeps the balance, granting just enough hope of resolution to keep the debtor searching, but never enough to allow freedom. Consider a prince who hints at favor, but never confirms it. His court burns with ambition. Nobles strive harder, serve longer, and whisper his praises in hopes of earning what they believe is almost within reach. Yet the prince gives nothing final, only glimmers. And so, they remain indebted to a reward that may never come. Now ask yourself, who truly holds the power? The servant who longs to repay his debt, or the master who ensures it can never be repaid? This is the dark economy of human influence, where emotion becomes currency, and uncertainty becomes the vault that holds it. But remember, every debt has a cost. Not just for the debtor, but for the one who holds it. For to keep someone bound, you must also keep the chain polished, the question alive, the illusion unbroken. What is the cost of control? What price must you pay to keep others bound by questions they cannot answer? Cold logic demands an answer. For while withholding finality grants power, it is a power bought with precision, patience, and risk. The first truth is simple: closure releases, its absence enslaves. But enslavement cannot be reckless. It must be guided with a surgeon's hand, not a butcher's blade. Consider the courts of Renaissance Italy, where rumors moved faster than soldiers. A ruler who left his intentions unclear inspired speculation, sometimes admiration, sometimes fear. But a ruler who left too much unresolved appeared indecisive, even weak. Power thrives in ambiguity, yet it dies in chaos. You must know where the line lies, and dance upon it without stumbling. When you withhold finality, you are not simply keeping others guessing. You are shaping their thoughts, their emotions, their choices, while appearing to do nothing at all. This requires discipline. For the temptation to speak, to explain, to justify, is great. But the moment you do, the spell is broken. The mystery dissolves, and with it your hold. History gives us a stark example. Emperor Tiberius of Rome ruled much of his later reign from the island of Capri, rarely appearing in public, rarely speaking to his Senate, issuing decrees so vague they seemed like riddles. Senators trembled, fearing that any wrong step might betray intentions they could not decipher. This was not cowardice. It was deliberate. By withholding clarity, Tiberius made his court fear their own interpretations more than his punishment. But here is where cold logic sharpens its edge. Withholding finality is not always about inspiring fear. Sometimes it is about inspiring possibility. A strategist might leave a rival uncertain whether they stand in favor or on the brink of ruin. A leader might hint at rewards, promotions, alliances, yet never confirm them. A lover might leave an ending unspoken, allowing the other to believe it might not be final. Each case uses the same principle: deny them peace but allow them hope, because fear chains the body, but hope chains the mind. Yet this path is dangerous. Push too far toward cruelty, and resentment will eventually harden into rebellion. Lean too heavily on hope, and your ambiguity becomes transparent, seen not as mystery, but as manipulation. The key is equilibrium. Enough fear to ensure caution, enough hope to ensure loyalty. But let us be colder still. Withholding finality is not only about controlling others. It is also about controlling yourself. The weak crave resolution as much as their victims. They want to be understood, to justify their actions, to defend their motives. Yet the strategist silences this urge, knowing every word risks dissolving the tension that grants power. And so, the question becomes, can you resist your own need for finality? Can you leave a silence standing where your ego longs to speak? This is the price of mastery, not merely denying others, but denying yourself. Psychology calls this the paradox of influence. The more you explain, the less mysterious you become. The less mysterious, the less powerful. Clarity feels comfortable, but it robs you of leverage. Mystery feels dangerous, but it is the currency of control. Ask yourself, would you rather be liked and forgotten? Or feared, admired, speculated upon, long after you have left the room? The choice is not moral, it is strategic. For those who seek comfort, choose resolution. But those who seek power learn to leave doors open, wounds unhealed, questions unanswered. Yet here lies the final cruelty. Once you master this, you may find that no one ever truly leaves you, because no one ever truly understands you. And perhaps that is the greatest form of power, or the greatest form of isolation. But isolation has its own dangers. And in the conclusion, we confront the darkest question of all. What happens when the strategist becomes trapped in his own game? Power does not thrive in what is spoken, but in what is withheld. Closure ends influence. Certainty kills curiosity. Finality frees the mind, but leave a question unanswered. You do not merely linger in memory, you command it. Throughout history, the most cunning rulers, lovers, and leaders understood this principle: control is not always taken. Sometimes it is given, unknowingly, by those who cannot stop thinking about you. A glance, a silence, a half-spoken word. These are not weaknesses, they are chains, stronger than iron, invisible to the eye, yet unbreakable in the mind. And so, I ask you, will you grant peace to those who seek it? Or will you master the art of leaving the door ajar, knowing curiosity and obsession will guard it better than any lock? If this discourse has sharpened your vision, leave your thoughts below. Subscribe for more Machiavellian strategies. And share this with those who believe control is loud, when in truth, it whispers.